think, or I would suggest that the people who are in these situations, what Amnesty has done to go there to the grassroots level, give specific options such as connect them to other viable sources. Where when you go there to the grassroots level and you are doing a certain work, you don't just leave them to fend for themselves as well. You always keep up and regular check up on them until their inequality or the problem they're going through has eventually been solved.
Absolutely, and I like the fact that you highlight the need to go to the grassroots, that don't just sit in your office. And I'm quick to note that actually most of these organizations, all of you're in very posh places. All the organizations you can see on this banner, they are either in Karen. If they are not in Karen, they are on Riverside, in Upper Hill, very posh places. So, and as you answered the question, Madam Janice, do you think how effective would getting to the grassroots be to redress some of these issues and to ensure that everyone gets a voice, notwithstanding their social-economic status?
Okay. I'll answer you by what we are currently working on right now. So this year we're running a campaign on trying to bring equality to the right to health. So you've said we don't sit in the office, we go to the grassroots areas. So right now we are doing the travels, going to the marginalized communities, Garissa, Tana, Wajir, Kilifi, just an example of some of them. So we are going to the offices, we are going to the places, get the meeting, hear the people's voice, come up with a board that can be able to create something sustainable for the people living in the communities. And after that, also have people who can be accountable to that. That's number one. Number two, working together with NHIF. NHIF are the body that is trying to bring the affordability in the right to access to health. Now, when I'm talking about NHIF, I would like to bring it in the view of I think almost everyone can be able to, let me not say everyone, but almost everyone. I'm saying almost everyone, because when we went to the ground, some of the people who came there, they said, true, we registered with NHIF, yes, but the problem is it became too expensive. So the cost of living is also a limitation, okay? So we as Amnesty, we are trying to bring it to the fact that NHIF, are you able to accommodate everyone with the cost of the schemes that you're providing? It might not be expensive for the people who are living in the towns, but it might be expensive, and it is expensive for the people who are living in the marginalized communities. If I would bring up part of the recommendation you said, if it's okay. Can we ourselves elect leaders who are going to voice out our complaints? We don't have to. If someone comes to give you 50 bob today, it doesn't even take you home. Last year when you were having the campaigns, the people who were given, the people who were given like 50,000, do you know that 50,000 didn't even sustain them? Because they were too happy about that 50,000, but it didn't stay with them well. After some of them had their own lives and their whole livelihood gone just because they're given 50,000. Everyone is thinking, now this one has 50,000 and I am rich. Can you elect someone and put someone in that office who is going to talk on your behalf? Don't put someone who is giving you that 50 shilling. That 50 shilling is only going to end there and then. Go and elect someone who is not quick to give you that small money, to give you an incentive, but it's quick to go and bring out the voice for you up there in the government, because that is a person you need. Number two, we can use the social media platform. Social media platform, you see, there was the case of the Kianjokoma brothers. You must have heard about it, and also Jeff Mwathe. If it was not social media, everyone talking about it, it wouldn't have come so much into the light. Probably those stories would have just gone. I was talking about Jeff Mwathe. There's also a student who was killed in Kasarani, fell from the roof. Okay? So it's the same thing. If it wasn't the help of social media, And if we do not act on it, surely, where would we get our voice out? If we also do that, and also on social media, the theme for International Women's Day this year was Digit All. They did not make a mistake to write digit in small letters and all in capital letters. It means like everything that you get, everything that you have gotten information about, try and bring it out. It might not be true, but or when you bring it out, then you try and bring the people who have the right facts to bring it out in the open for everyone to hear and to act upon it. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much for even highlighting the use of social media in creating advocacy on social economic rights and even voicing some of the violations that happen. And this is something that can cut for all of us, that you might not be a very big person, but you can use the tool which you have, social media, to voice out human rights infractions for anyone who has their rights infringed. So I'll allow Isabella to give in her recommendations, and then we could take 1 or 2 questions from the plenary and then close it at that.
Okay, thank you. And honestly, I only had recommendations for sure. So we'll start with what I would say for the government and state agencies. Certainly to uphold rule of law, really and truly. We have various articles, right from Article 19. We have Article 26, 27, 28, 29, and we could go on and on and on. Issues of governance, human dignity, protection from torture and related violations, all these things. That's where I'd start from for the government. And it's funny that we even have to remind them, but if we have to, then we will. So I'll start from there. And then we have noticed a trend where courts will do, in essence, what it is that they need to do, but the government will also proceed and do as it pleases. So for me, a recommendation would be then we rally around ensuring that all courts' pronouncements are respected and adhered to, be it structural interdicts, be it an execution order, and stuff like that. Because then if courts are then our last point of resort and we don't see anything coming from it, then we really, truly don't have anywhere to go. The other recommendation would be that we'd encourage the state to continuously engage at the global level. We've seen that when they are engaging at that level, they make powerful commitments, and it's useful because they can be followed up. I'll give you an example. Sometime in November, we saw a declaration by the head of state of Kenya, publicly just admitting that there was institutionalization of extrajudicial execution as well as enforced disappearance. I don't think any sitting president, at least in our lifetime, has made that kind of declaration. And so when we see things like that, when they are engaging at the global level, when they're speaking to their peers in those high-end spaces, then at least it goes on record and people can follow up. For instance, the UN Human Rights Committee sometime in March 2022 made an observation in terms of declarations, and they said we would then want you to follow up and prosecute 1, 2, 3 persons, right? So I feel like that would be another recommendation. We would also then urge them to budget better. Civil society, there's an enormous amount of work that has gone into issues of budgeting in different spheres, be it public health, education, security. Civil society has done that. I remember of a beautiful document I read from Zalendo and also CRIPS and also Article 19 actually. And I feel like they already have it all cut out for them, starting points, who to work with, understanding the problems, and getting to work around those things. So I feel like if it's a question of budgeting, at every single step they have it, and they have people to work with, and I believe that civil societies like ourselves and Amnesty would be willing and ready to work with them in terms of enhancing their budgeting. So that would be a recommendation. Let me give you an example. If I walk into the IPOA office and they tell me they don't have fuel, how do you think we'll go and investigate a case of torture, right? And I'm giving live examples because if state agencies themselves are underfunded, how then do we even support these particular survivors? The last one would be capacity building. And there are also development partners who are happy to help various arms of the government to capacity build themselves, especially to make sure that whatever it is that they are working on is in tandem with the currently acceptable global standards. For CSOs, quickly, I'd recommend that we continuously then continue to come up with disruptive strategic programming. I saw a campaign on TikTok. I love TikTok. By Article 19, and I really loved it, because then you're engaging people who are about 19, 20, 21, and they are, they're talking about issues of journalism, freedom of picketing, protest. That's useful, because at 19, honestly, I didn't really know much. So that kind of strategic programming would be useful. Another recommendation would be that we continue to partner together, because the kind of change that we're calling for is, in essence, useful to be called for in joint voices. You really just can't, as IMLU, talk about issues of police brutality. Amnesty runs beautiful campaigns, so if they do that and then we do the legal documentation, we move somewhere. You really just can't do it by yourself. And even in looking for funding, if you do it in consortia spaces and co-create, you then have a better chance in terms of getting support. And then the last one would be that CSOs continuously report at the regional and the global level. For instance, IMLU has an observer status at the Africa Commission level, and annually we report to them, and sometimes we send communications. We also have an observer status with ECOSOC, and we also continuously report at the global level, especially to the UN Human Rights Committee. So when we are at that level, we are able to get recommendations that the state can either note or maybe bypass, but at least there's a track record in terms of following up on what it is that we have set out there. Push for public participation, especially at this grassroots level, civic education, as well as strategic and public litigation. I genuinely still believe that that is one of our strongest spaces, especially as CSO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I couldn't agree more, especially on the last point, that we should never lose hope in our judicial system, and that we've seen sometimes that litigation can actually get us somewhere, especially in the last 10 years where we've had a lot of public interest litigation, and it has remedied us a lot of human rights violations. So thank you very much. At this point, we'll take questions from any of you. In case you have a question, I think Wangoi will help me to circulate the mic, and then we could respond to all the questions once. Questions? Going once, going twice. Yes, there's a question.
Good evening again. I'm sure all of us are tired, but my question is towards Isabella. And he asked the question before about progressive realization of the socioeconomic rights, but